Barrett Jones, I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Ryan, what's up, man? How we doing?
Oh, we're good, man. The Crimson Tide Nation here in Tuscaloosa is we're on cloud nine, and we have been for quite a few hours.
No doubt, Ryan. Yeah, it's been a wild few hours here, and there's been a lot of rat poison floating around.
Yeah, it is. But what a dominating performance! I think we were all waiting for that, and maybe not a complete game, but pretty close to it from Alabama Saturday night.
Well, it was a pretty complete game. I agree with you. I think for the first time all year, the defense stole the show. And look, make no mistake, the offense played really well. It's a very good defense. But I think the Alabama defense kind of reminded people that, hey, we're pretty good. And that you could see every week they've just kind of been getting a little better and a little better. And they finally played their best game. And look, I know LSU is not the best offense out there. And Cooper is Peyton Manning, but just the dominating mentality along that line of scrimmage, Quinnen Williams, the way he plays to it, that guy's an absolute animal. I think that defense absolutely made a statement. And look, we'll have plenty of time to talk about this later. But if they keep playing like that, I have a feeling this team is kind of starting to think about more, even just the national championship. They're starting to think about wanting to be known as one of the best teams of all time, right? And if they're playing like that offensively and defensively, they're looking pretty good.
Well, and I hate to do this because I feel like I'm asking the same questions I did 3 weeks ago, but Nick Saban's having to answer it every single week. You said Quinnen Williams just a couple of minutes ago. He was awarded earlier today the Bronco Nagurski National Defensive Player of the Week. I mean, this kid's special, man. And, I mean, it kind of speaks to waiting his turn and then being ready when his name is called.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. You're right. I mean, it really is. I mean, talking about a guy who didn't really play a lot the last 2 years and now has turned into an absolute superstar. And if you bring him on tape this guy, he is all over the field, and he's an animal. He's unblockable. I mean, you saw there were times where he had the slide going his way and pass protection and therefore had a double team, even though, Ryan, as we know, it was not a planned double team, right? But it just happened to be a double team. And, he fought through both guys and made the play. So he's incredible. And he also, in the run game, he frees up those linebackers to make plays because he does observe two guys and really doesn't allow that guy to get to the second level because he's so dynamic up front. So he's a heck of a player. And it's almost shocking to see how much he's developed from last year to this year. I love the metaphor that Gary Danielson kept using. That Jonah Williams said that he was a 300-pound bar of soap. That really is what he looks like out there. He's so slippery, but he's also got great power. Those are the guys that are really hold the ball, man. Guys that have a great combination of power and quickness, and that's exactly what Quinnen has and what makes him so dangerous.
Well, I think the one play that he showed off the quickness is he was running down a running back and caught him at the line of scrimmage. He made the play on the out of bounds, and I think he immediately came out because he was a little bit winded. But, I mean, it was for him to show that speed, as you said, 300 pounds, running down a SEC running back, man, that's not easy to do.
No doubt. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he definitely – he's got some speed too. That never hurts. But, I mean, his body quickness for a big guy, that's really what sets him apart. I mean, it's true flatline speed only helps as much as a defensive lineman, but the way he is so quick and sudden and the way he uses his hands, man, when I watch him play, I'm so glad I'm not having to press that guy press anymore because he's so sudden with his hands. He just has a great feel for, when to swim and rip and when to swat and when to strike a guy right in the chest. And, he really is a complete player. And I think right now he's probably the best defensive player in college football. Honestly, that's how I feel about him after watching tape of him.
Led the team in tackles on Saturday night, certainly a dominant player. A couple of weeks ago, we were all hitting the panic button, and you were talking us off the cliff, and you were convincing that this offensive line was okay. Where are you going into Mississippi State with this offensive line?
Well, I thought they played their best game. I thought, that in a lot of ways, LSU really wanted to stop Tua. That was clearly the game plan going in. They played some two-guy safety looks. That was what it was geared towards. And I thought they had an answer, and they ran the football extremely well. And that was great to see. I'm sure any Alabama fan loves to see run the football. I thought Damian played really well. I thought really all the backs played well. And the offensive line did a nice job. And look, the substitution at left guard, I think, it's almost been kind of quiet, but I think it's been a great move for those guys up front. And for whatever reason, it feels like just a more just a cohesive unit now. They're playing well together. It seems like it's more powerful on that side. And so I think that's been a great move for those guys. And I feel like everyone's on the same page, and they're working towards being the best offensive line in the country. I've been very impressed with the way this group has developed and grown.
I am too, and I was all about to hit the panic button, and you told me not to, and so we believed you. It seems like just a yearly, annual affair. We panic about the offensive line, but here they are going into the month of November playing their best football. If Alabama gets this rushing attack cranked up like they did against LSU, the defense has risen up to the occasion. It seems to be another typical Nick Saban-style defense. Is it fair for college football that Alabama's this dominant?
Ryan, life's not fair. I think this question is obviously it's everywhere right now. We're talking about, is this fair? Is this, I don't really. It's a false choice, right? I mean, is it fair? I mean, of course it's fair. Everybody's playing with the same rules, and Nick Saban right now is absolutely dominating, and he's got a machine going right now in Tuscaloosa with the way he's got these guys playing, the way he's recruiting. I think offensively, where I watch most of my tape, and it is pretty amazing to watch how balanced these guys are. I mean, you really look at every single position group, from quarterback to running back, offensive line, tight end. Irv's been playing great. Wide receivers. I mean, it's probably the best offense I've ever seen in college football, honestly, with my eyes. Especially now that they're running the football more effectively. It was just almost had to be disheartening watching that, because essentially LSU said we're going to try to stop team, force them to run the football, and then they run it extremely effectively. So, I don't know how you stop this offense, and especially we're talking about some of the best athletes in the country with Dave Aranda, one of the best coordinators in our game, trying to scheme up and stop them. And the thing is, they really didn't play that bad. I think defensively they played pretty well in spots. So I don't know how you stop the offense, and then defensively they're playing a lot better. I'm still not ready to quite call them maybe elite yet, even though they played really awesome. I want to see it over kind of a long period of time. But, it definitely right now it looks like Alabama and everybody else. I will say keep an eye on Clemson. Look, everybody's kind of forgetting about them. They're kind of under the radar right now. That's the way Dabo likes it. I'm sure he's over there, feeding those guys, underdog stories and how nobody believes in them. But they have a very talented team, and I think they're as talented as Alabama. No, but I think that they're getting better and better every game with their quarterback as well. And I think I kind of think we're headed for an Alabama Clemson Part 4.
Barrett, and just from a media perspective, college football analyst, do you think Georgia is close to being the team that they were last year?
It's a great question, Ryan. I think defensively, to me, they're not quite where they were last year. But I think offensively they're getting better. And I think by the end of the year, this offense for Georgia could even be better than it was last year. Now, I get that they lost a lot, as far as especially the running backs. But I think this passing attack is continuing to evolve. I think Jake Fromm has grown a lot these last 2 weeks. So I think in some ways it can be a better offense than it was last year. Defensively, to me, is a big question mark. Roquan Smith was probably the best player in college football last year as far as defensively. They don't have a guy like that really anywhere in college football this year, I don't think. And so that's where I kind of ask, are they the same team? They're still very good defensively. I'm just not sure. Maybe they're not quite as good as they were last year. So I don't know. It's a good question, because they've kind of been Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde this year. Some weeks they've been very solid. Other weeks they haven't shown up. And, the LSU one still is a big head-scratcher to me. When you look at those numbers, the way LSU ran the ball against that front, that one's a mystery to me. After seeing LSU kind of more up close and personal this week and watching what they did against Alabama, obviously I know you can't just always compare it, apples to apples and side by side. It's not always how it works. But it was a little puzzling to see kind of who showed up for Georgia that day and compared to what they've looked like the last few weeks. So, I think that they're still a very good team. Should Alabama beat them? Yeah, they should. They should beat them. But that they're more talented, I think, really on both sides of the football. But Georgia certainly has the talent where if they play a perfect game and Alabama doesn't show up, they could beat us. And really, honestly, and maybe I'm overconfident, but to me, Georgia and Clemson right now, looking at all around college football, and maybe Michigan if they keep developing, maybe. I just don't see anyone else really beating Alabama. I don't see it. I don't see Notre Dame. I just don't think Oklahoma has any defense. I can't really imagine a world where anyone beats them other than maybe those two teams.
Well, and it's kind of funny. You always say something here, and I've adopted it, and I use it quite often. Not only is Nick Saban the best college football coach, you also call him the number one sports psychologist in the country. You've said that 100 times on this program, and I've used it from what you've said. Nick Saban also convinced his team that they needed to make a statement, and he had those guys believing that they needed to make a statement. What does he use this week? Where does the psychology come from after the performance there? Is he just playing up to the standard when you got a team like Mississippi State coming to town?
Yeah, that's probably been one of the most impressive things to me about this team is just kind of their readiness every week. They come out and they've started fast pretty much every week, and they've looked focused and whatnot. Like, I think it's a different group of guys. I told you, I have a sense that this group, are they focused on Mississippi State? Yes. But I think they're, and Coach David, I don't even know if he wants this, but I think they have their sights on maybe even a little more greatness. I think by the end of the year, they understand they have a chance to be maybe known as the greatest college football team of all time. And I think they want that. And again, I haven't talked to anyone. No one's told me that. But I just get a sense when they're out there, these guys are locked in. They're on a mission, right, to be kind of remembered for a long time. And the way they're playing right now, that's the way it's going to be if they keep playing this way.
All right. So Barrett, be honest with us, which you always do. Looking back, the way that Nick Saban convinced you guys to play to a certain standard, do you just get caught up in it? And because when we talk to these players, it's like the same verbiage, man. It's so crazy when I go in that football building and, Damian Harris was talking about, we don't care what other people think of us, because we were talking about the schedule and how Alabama says that they haven't played anybody. You'd be asked a couple of questions about that. And he said, we really don't care what people think about us. Is it something that you just kind of get caught up and you hear it so much that you begin to believe it? As you look back and reflect on your time, the way that Nick Saban used this psychology, did you know it at the time, or do you look back and you go, he got me, man. He had me convinced.
I certainly, you're aware kind of what's going on, but you also understand that's the best way to do it, right? That's the way to win. You want to have that mentality, and that's how you need to prepare, and that's how you need to play. So I think it's not like you're being tricked. I just think if you buy into that truly is the best way to do it, then you're willing to do it. And look, Coach Saban at this point, it's a proven method, right? That's the thing, is this guy has done it for so many years now that you really have you're not going to have a whole lot of ground to stand on to go in there and say, I think I know how to do it better, right? He understands what it takes to win. He's got the talent to do it, and if the guys buy in, the recipe's there. So I think guys understand that. Again, Ryan, I think it's all about leadership. That's really what it comes down to. Does this team have leadership? I've been very pleased with the leaders on this team. I think there's been very few distractions. Guys seem focused and locked in. Guys have stepped up. The teams look prepared every week. So I really haven't heard. And normally throughout the year, I hear more complaints from Coach Saban about kind of the way the team's practicing. And Ryan, you're close to the program than I have. I have not heard a peep about that all season. I haven't heard one thing really from Coach Saban that he's displeased with the way the team's practiced this week, or he's frustrated, or he feels like they're getting cocky or overconfident. I don't get that from this team, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is and who the leaders are exactly in there that are making that happen, but I do know that leadership is a big part of it.
Barrett Jones, two-time All-American at the University of Alabama, one of the most decorated players in Alabama Crimson Tide history. What do you see in Mississippi State's defense?
Look, they're very good. I think they got two guys up front that are extremely good, and Jeffrey Simmons and Montez Sweat. Those guys are a challenge for anybody. So there will absolutely be a challenge. They're very physical. I think if Mississippi State had a better offense this year, I think this team is a national contender. So you've seen it almost looks like in a lot of their big games they've just kind of gotten worn down because their offense hasn't been able to score in big games. Right, LSU and Auburn both, that offense was abysmal, and so I think it's definitely going to be a tough test, and you could argue top to bottom when the defense is healthy that it could be right up there with LSU as one of the best defenses in the SEC. So I think it's a huge test. I think Coach Saban will have these guys ready. They'll be locked in. The Mississippi State game is always tough. It's hard for the LSU game. You're tired. It's always a tough test. So they'll have to get their minds right and get up for this one. But again, I until they show me otherwise, I just think this team's different. They're going to get up there and they're going to go out there and play fast and probably rest the fourth quarter again. So it's hard to really predict anything else if they keep playing the way they have been.
Barrett Jones, we always love his insight, the way that he breaks down the game and provides us a great analysis each and every week. It's always presented by MedCenter, Urgent Care, Family Medicine, no appointment necessary. 5 locations throughout our area, and the 6th location coming very, very soon. Another one going to be added to the Tuscaloosa area. Barrett, we also have a chance to talk about our faith in Christ, and you always share a little verse and what it means to you, and we always get a lot out of it. Let's throw it back to you, my friend.
Sure. Tonight I have a short verse. It's Psalm 107:1. It says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His love endures forever." It's really always convicting for me that I really start thinking about the way I pray, Ryan, and I think about how much time I spend asking for things and how much time I spend really thanking the Lord for what He's given me. I subscribe to when I pray. I try to remember acts. Right, that's the way I always like to pray. The A is adoration, the C is confession, the T is thanksgiving, and then the S is supplication. I think the reason that's important, I'm putting supplication or asking for my needs last, right after I've really confessed and I've talked about the characteristics and traits of God, who He is. I've given thanks for what He's given me, and then I ask. I think a lot of times, in our mentality, the times we pray and we really think about what we're praying for. Our prayers are pretty self-centered, and they're pretty just kind of us asking for something instead of really thinking about what the Lord has provided for us and truly giving thanks. So I know we're getting, we're in November. We're not too far away from Thanksgiving, and it's a time to kind of remember what we're thankful for. And a lot of times we think about our family and how we're thankful for them. But every day I think should be a time of Thanksgiving. We really think about how thankful we are for what the Lord has blessed us with.
Psalms 107:1. Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His love endures forever. Barrett Jones, always that great message, man. I appreciate you for being a part of the show. Hopefully you have a great week. You got an assignment this weekend, and what is it if you do?
I do, yeah. I was in Knoxville this past weekend, and I called the Tennessee game. And then this weekend there'll be Miami, Georgia Tech, actually, so on ESPN Radio.
Okay. Miami, Georgia Tech.
I'm hoping I can get my voice back, by the way.
Yeah. You sound like you've.
I didn't want you to think I'd been taking out a pack a day, Ryan. I just have a little bit of a cold, so
okay.
Don't worry.
Okay, all right. So you'll be ready to go, and
I'll be ready to go.
There's something I can send you a link to it for its broadcasting spray that will help you, and it's the best. It's the best $10 you'll ever spend on Amazon. I'll send it to you. I promise.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, listen, when you do a 4-hour solo show, you got to know the tricks, man.
I hear you.
All right, Barrett, appreciate you, man. Have a great week.
Thanks, Ryan. Have a good one.